What's up, guys? Welcome back to Deck Tech for Decks. I'm your host Caleb. If you guys want to support the channel, you can click on that whatnot link in the description down below. You'll get a free $15 whenever you sign up, and you'll be supporting the channel. Additionally, you can become a patron. Special shout out to my high contributing patrons, Newsome and Irrelevant. You guys rock. Now let's get into today's Deck Tech with Ezio, and this guy's going to be a very powerful assassin tribal deck. He's going to allow us to cheat a ton of high CMC assassins into play, like Thraximunder, Olivia, Edward Kenway, just a lot of very powerful cards that are very expensive, being cast for 2 mana due to his busted ability to lower the cost of all of our assassins. We're also going to lean pretty heavily into a historic tribal deck as well, because a lot of these assassins just have legendary tacked onto them. So we get to run cards like Annie joins up, Vraska joins up, we can run Jodah without it feeling clunky. So now whenever we're cheating something like a Thraximunder into play, we're going to trigger Jodah for 7 CMC, dig deep for another legendary, and cheat it directly into play. That's going to be insane, on top of Jodah just being a mass buff for our board of assassins. We can also dip a little into the human aspect of the tribal realm, because assassins just have human tacked onto them as well. So we can play cards like this guy and give all of our assassins indestructible. Kind of insane. So if that sounds like a deck tech you want to get into, let's get into it. Wait, don't forget to like and comment on this video. It really helps me out. Why don't we comment down below any of the other Assassin Creeds commanders that you need me to build, and maybe the most popular one I'll go ahead and knock out. Now let's get into this deck tech. Let's kick it off by talking about the assassins we're gonna run. We have Ramses, Achilles, and Arno as our Lord effects. Notably, these are kind of overcosted, but whenever they're only going to cost 2 mana, they're very good. Especially with Ramses, now whenever we activate our commander's ability and kill one of our opponents, every opponent is going to die. Or I guess more importantly, you just win the game, but that's the same thing, right? Olivia, Opulent Outlaw, is one of those cards we're going to be abusing that cares about outlaws. Outlaws are assassins, so that's going to be perfect here. And we can cheat her into play very consistently, and then we just get some solid mana ramp and then a way to buff our entire board up. Mary the Killing Quill, again, this is going to be an amazing card in this deck. Now we're going to be hating out our opponent's graveyards while turning their creatures into ramp and card advantage. Edward Kenway is another one of those high cost assassins that we're only going to be paying 2 mana for. Additionally, not only does this guy ramp us to oblivion, he also does give us some solid impulse draw off of our opponent's deck. Ezio, Blade of Vengeance, this guy's just going to allow us to draw a card whenever we deal combat damage with an assassin. Cassandra is a super interesting card we get to play. Whenever she enters the battlefield, we're going to get to search up the Spear of Leonidas. And this spear is very flexible. It can give one of our creatures double strike. It creates a 3/2 legendary horse. Again, our deck does care about legendaries. And then we do get a solid loot effect that allows us to draw 2 cards and then discard 2 cards. Not to mention, her other ability allows us to draw cards whenever a creature with a legendary equipment equipped to it deals combat damage, and the spear does give double strike. So we can draw up to 2 cards per turn with this girl while dealing a ton of damage. Basim, this guy's amazing. He's just going to allow us to draw a card whenever we cast a historic permanent. Notably, that's only once per turn, but this guy is going to get pretty big, and he is going to be unblockable. Rohan has insane synergy with Errata Deadly Fugitive. We're going to basically get to double our board state every single turn. Rohan has the Maskwood Nexus effect, but for assassins, and then additionally, he gives all face down creatures menace, some very useful evasion, and then whenever you turn one of those face down creatures face up, you lose a life and draw a card. Now, Errata says whenever an assassin you control deals combat damage to an opponent, cloak the top card of that player's library. And those cloaked cards are now assassins. So this is going to enable us to double our board state every single turn, as long as we're able to get through with those cloaked assassins that have menace. This is just not going to be okay. Thraximunder also seemed like a solid include in this deck. This guy's just going to steadily get bigger, and the fact that he's going to be only 2 mana in this deck is also pretty notable. Bayek is another reason I did lean heavily into the historic strategy while also staying on the theme of assassins, because as long as it's your turn, he gives other historic creatures you control double strike, which is very notable. Again, sorry for butchering half of these names, but you know, they don't make it easy. Layla's going to be pretty insane here. She's going to basically be able to reanimate almost anything from the graveyard to our hand. Now, notably, this does have the Grim Hireling effect, where it says says one or more assassins, but to a player. So we can trigger this girl up to 3 times as long as we deal combat damage to each of our opponents. Jacob and Evie are going to be a solid duo. I kind of love this partner with mechanic whenever you're trying to get a lot of one creature type on the battlefield, because effectively they just say, hey, go ahead and draw a card whenever you cast this spell, and then additionally they do have solid synergy. You discard an assassin spell, and then he's going to allow you to exile it and then cast the copy, so you lose some utility because you do have to exile that spell, but again, these are going to be solid in the early game to discard some cards and draw some cards essentially. Lydia also pairs amazingly with Jacob. She's going to allow us to surveil equal to the amount of tapped assassins we control, and that's just going to put more assassins in the graveyard, allowing us to trigger his ability more consistently. Vraska seems very good here. Not only is she an assassin, but additionally, it's going to allow us to steal all of our opponent's really useful creatures that other players are destroying, or even we are destroying, right? We do get them back in the form of a treasure token, but we do retain all of their abilities, so that is worth noting. Calidus Assassin has always been one of those cool cards I've wanted to include in a deck, but 6 mana is just insane. Now, whenever this is 2 mana, that's a lot better, because we can have Calidus Assassin enter as a copy of any creature on the battlefield, except it gets that weird ability that says, hey, whenever it enters the battlefield, destroy up to 1 creature with the same name. So not only are we going to get their broken effect that we wanted, we're also going to get to remove that broken effect from their side of the board. Massacre Girl, no brainer here. This one's going to be some solid card advantage. It's going to make our assassins hard to block, and it's just going to be a menace to deal with. Ruthless Lawbringer, we do have a little bit of token generation in this deck, so we can sacrifice those tokens to start destroying those non-land permanents. Altaïr is like Jacob on steroids. This is the one I'm most excited about building besides the one we're building currently, Ezio, so leave in the comments down below if you would like me to flesh out an Altaïr deck. This guy exiles an assassin from our graveyard whenever he attacks and puts a memory counter on it, and then we're going to reanimate, tapped and attacking every single creature card we have exiled with a memory counter on it. This can make for some really insane board states very quickly, and allows us to recover pretty well after a board wipe. Eye of Alexandria. Now this girl's amazing as well, because whenever a historic creature you control deals combat damage to a player, we're going to get to create an assassin creature token with menace. She also does have lifelink, so that's usable here. And again, the majority of our deck is historic assassins or just historic creatures in general. I'm not even going to attempt to pronounce this guy's name, but essentially he's just in the deck to generate some assassin tokens whenever he deals combat damage. Breaker of Chains is essentially just in the deck to dig us 6 cards deep and find us another assassin card. Rooftop Bypass is going to allow us to generate even more assassin tokens. This does have the Grim Hireling text, so we can generate up to 3 assassin tokens per turn with this. Roaming Throne does turn itself into an assassin, and then additionally it's going to allow all of our assassin triggers to trigger twice, so that's very broken here. Titan of Littjara, again, this does turn itself into an assassin, and it's going to give us some pretty insane card advantage here. Kindred Discovery also goes absolutely insane in this deck. The card advantage is going to be wild because we're casting a ton of assassins very constantly, and then additionally whenever they attack not on combat damage, we're going to draw a card. And this deck is really able to take advantage of all of that card advantage because the majority of our creatures only cost 2 black mana. Shared Animosity seems like a no-brainer. This is going to make our assassins massive. Discreet Retreat is another card that's going to slot perfectly in this deck because all of our assassins are outlaws. So now we're going to add 2 black mana to our mana pool, cast an assassin, and then we get to draw a card since it's an outlaw. Laughing Jesper Flint is also a sneaky include that slots perfectly into this deck. All of our assassins are outlaws, so now we're going to exile a ton of cards from the top of our opponent's library and get to choose what we want to cast from them. And last but not least, as far as tribal synergies are concerned, we are running Black Market Connections. It generates treasure tokens, it generates changelings that are also assassins, and then it's going to draw us cards. Moving on, let's talk about some historic synergies we have in the deck. Jodah the Unifier is going to be amazing here. Not only is it going to make our assassins creatures massive, but additionally, our assassins are going to trigger his ability like crazy. Notably, whenever we spend 2 black mana to cast an assassin spell, that's not what's going to trigger Jodah. Jodah is going to trigger off the actual CMC of the spell being cast. So with Thraximunder, he's going to look for something below 7 CMC, not something below 2 CMC. Pretty busted there. Vraska joins up, makes our assassins hard to block, and it's just going to give us some solid card advantage. Annie joins up is going to be solid removal, and it's just going to trigger all of our legendary cards twice. This is going to basically be a second roaming throne in the deck. Dahada seemed like a no-brainer here. Not only can it give us a little bit of protection, a little bit of lifelink, but additionally it can dig us deep and find us our key assassin pieces. Heroes Podium, again, this is just going to be an amazing anthem. Primeval's Glorious Rebirth, amazing after a board wipe. We can just wipe the entire board, knowing that we're just going to reanimate everything the next turn. Cutzel seemed like a no-brainer here as well. There is a lot of lord effects, a lot of ways to buff our assassins, so it's just going to provide a ton of card advantage while giving us a little bit of protection on our turn. Flowering of the White Tree, again, very good with Cutzel and does give us a little bit of protection. Joyra Weatherlight Captain allows us to draw a card whenever we cast a historic spell, and then General's Enforcer seems like a weird include because it cares about humans, but most of our assassins are humans, and then it does give legendary humans you control indestructible. So this guy for 2 mana makes the majority of our board indestructible. Urza's Ruinous Blast gets rid of everything that's not legendary, so that's basically going to be a one-sided board wipe. We are playing Andoril as well. This buffs up all of our little assassins and makes them massive pretty quick, and additionally it is legendary. Grim Hireling seemed very good in this deck. It can generate up to 6 treasure tokens a turn. And remember, this is a 5-color deck that cares about casting double black Pip very consistently, so being able to generate treasure tokens is just going to make that a lot more consistent. For this reason here, playing Crick seems like a no-brainer. He's easy to cast because we can spend life to cast him, and then additionally, he's going to make all of our assassin spells cost 4 life instead of 2 black mana. That can be massive, especially when we can buff this guy up and start gaining life off of his lifelink. Last but not least, we are going to play Dryad of Elusian Grove. Mana fixing, very important here, and this deck does draw enough cards to utilize his ability to play additional lands. That's going to do it for the deck tech, guys. Again, let me know in the comments down below if you want me to build any of the other assassins from this set. Let me know what you're most excited about for this set, and don't forget to like the video. Special shout out to my high contributing patrons, Newsome, Chicken Salad, Excessum, Creator, and Irrelevant. You guys rock. I hope this helped you in your deck building endeavors, and I will see you in the next one.